Some unsolved mysteries are so scary, with circumstances so mysterious and bizarre, that learning about them is like experiencing a real horror story coming to life. The fact that these puzzling cases are without plausible explanations exponentially heightens the horror. Nevertheless, families, friends, and police investigators continue searching for the answers behind these creepy mysteries that cannot be explained. Number 5. This is the strange but true story of Augustine Zeffirino, a 24-year-old farm worker living in Santa Maria, California, who was last seen on August 11, 2014. He was known to local healthcare workers as a non-compliant patient with drug-resistant tuberculosis. Tuberculosis, also called TB, causes a myriad of uncomfortable effects that remain active for weeks. Although treatable, some strains evolve to become resistant to medicine, growing both more potent and more difficult to control. The strand he was found to be carrying has only been identified in Mexico and nowhere else in the world. Augustine had already endured months of isolation, and now he was being told by Santa Barbara County officials to remain alone in a hotel room. He instead broke the rules to see family and friends, and even random street workers. A judge eventually ordered a GPS ankle bracelet, but a few months later, a nurse arrived at the hotel to give Augustine his medicine and found his room empty. The extremely viral patient had vanished for good. His exact location remains a creepy mystery that cannot be explained. The most likely scenario for this case is that Augustine had chosen to go back to Mexico, where his every move would not be subjected to such scrutiny. However, he could also be remaining in the States, which poses such a strange risk that there exists a warrant for his arrest. Just standing near Augustine sounds like a real-life horror story, as he could have been spreading the condition with every exhale for quite some time. Augustine is officially considered a missing person. Anyone with information about his whereabouts can contact the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Department at 805-681-4330. Hopefully he's getting treated, otherwise, thanks to his rare condition, he may not survive, and many others could be looking at a terrible fate as well. Number 4. It's a true horror story that sounds fake but is 100% real. 6 years after his passing, Valerie Spruill found out that her loving husband, Percy, was actually her biological father. Details are scarce, but Valerie married Percy sometime between 1984 and 1998. It was her second marriage, and she had 3 children from a previous relationship. By her own account, they had a good life together until he passed away in 1998. It wasn't until 2004 when she learned of the truth from an uncle. DNA testing confirmed the paternal relationship. For most of her childhood, Valerie did not know who her biological mother was. Valerie's mother had gotten pregnant with her as a teenager and had given her to her grandparents to raise. Her mother passed away when Valerie was about 9, and it was then that her grandparents told her who the family friend who used to actually visit was. Neither Valerie nor her parents knew the identity of her biological father. Understandably, when Valerie's uncle told her the true story between herself and Percy, she was horrified and hesitant to believe. However, she couldn't argue with the DNA proof. Valerie has no idea if Percy knew the horrifying secret. Ultimately, she told reporters she believed that even if he did discover the truth, he would have been unable to tell her. The aftermath of learning the secret was extremely devastating. Guided by therapy, Valerie recently told her children the mysterious events behind their family history. What's especially scary about Valerie's story is the fact that there may have been people in her life that knew what was going on, although this possibility remains a creepy mystery that cannot be explained. Although she's not clear on the details, her uncle may have had an idea all along that Percy was her father. And the question of whether or not Percy himself knew the truth and concealed it from her will never be answered. Number 3. Unlike most missing person cases, authorities knew exactly where Mary Dufour was. Since the 1920s, she'd been living in a series of nursing homes and hospitals in the Illinois area, until she passed away as an old woman in 1978, and even after, no one knew who she truly was. Mary Dufour was a pseudonym. Mary Doe Number 4 was the name given to her when she first entered the hospital. For nearly 100 years, no one has claimed Mary as their own. Her backstory is a strange and disturbing mystery. Mary was found dazed near a road in northern Illinois sometime in the 1920s. She was pregnant and had been attacked, though she couldn't remember anything about herself except she might have been a school teacher. With no family and unable to fend for herself, Mary was sent to live in the state hospital for the criminally insane, where she lived a sad existence for 30 years in the asylum. She never even had a visitor. In the 1970s, when the state hospital closed, Mary was transferred to a nursing home. In 1978, she passed away, her identity still a strange unsolved mystery. That might have been the end of her story were it not for the reporter who was assigned to cover her obituary, Rick Baker. The journalist kept publicizing more articles about her bizarre untold story until in 1979, 9 months after Mary passed away, Rick received a letter from a woman who had lived in Iowa in the 1920s. She thought she remembered the missing schoolteacher named Alice Zazer. Records from the 1920s were scanned, but Rick was determined to see this mystery solved. He called the school and a secretary put him in touch with a retired banker, a man whose sister had gone missing in 1926, a case in which foul play was suspected. Her name was Anna Sizer, which is very close to the name Alice Zazer from the mysterious letter. Rick felt that the facts of Anna's unsolved disappearance fit Mary's case, but Anna's brother wasn't so sure. He couldn't believe that his sister could have met such a real horror story while institutionalized. Perhaps out of denial, he flat out told Rick that after hearing Mary's story, he and his sister had decided that they wouldn't accept that their sister could be this woman. They simply wouldn't accept it. However, he did provide Rick with a photo of Anna for comparison. With photographic evidence, Rick felt sure Anna Sizer in the photograph was the same mysterious woman. However, since Mary had been cremated, neither her body nor DNA evidence were available for testing. Without cooperation from her brother, the forensic investigation was stalled. The real-life mystery of Mary Dufour's true identity will likely never be solved. Today, her unclaimed ashes remain buried under a fir tree in Morton, Illinois. Number 2. Theodore Ted last left his Oakland, New Jersey home on July 6, 1981. The 46-year-old bachelor was preparing to embark on a cross-country road trip that would end in Western Canada. Alone in his brand new brown Chevy pickup, he successfully traveled from New Jersey to Mount Vernon, Washington in just over a week. On July 13th, he called his parents and told them he was preparing to cross the border. It was the beginning of a scary mystery that has yet to be solved. It's not known if Ted got to explore any of Canada. Sometime that July, he had a horrifying encounter, and his body was stashed in a rural area in the Canadian province of Yukon. Whoever did this to him is still at large. What makes Ted's case an especially scary story is how his attacker may have actually stolen his identity. For a short period of time, an unknown man actually lived as Ted and even stole his truck and checkbook. On July 27th, a man claiming to be Ted and driving his vehicle was involved in an accident in Idaho. The other driver, a woman, sent Ted a letter at his parents' address, which was on his driver's license, attempting to get in contact with him. When Ted's parents received the anonymous letter in August, they called the woman to get any details about their son. The woman described Ted as tall, thin, and in his 20s, unlike the 46-year-old Ted. Ted's driver's license did not have a photo on it, but when the woman was shown a photo of Ted, she confirmed that it was not the man she had spoken to. When a missing person investigation was subsequently opened, police discovered something else strange about this mystery. In addition to being in Idaho at the end of July, Ted had also cashed more than 20 traveler's checks in several states in July and August of 1981, including Minnesota and North and South Dakota. It already seemed like the man driving Ted's car was not Ted. So was it possible that the person cashing the checks wasn't him as well? The signatures on the checks were different enough that it seemed clear Ted was being impersonated. However, by the time the missing person report was filed, the case had gone cold. At the end of October of 1981, Ted's truck was found abandoned at the end of a remote ravine in Montana. For decades, there seemed to be no trace of Ted. Unknown to US police though, just years after Ted vanished, the remains of an adult male who has not been identified was discovered by Canadian police in a wooded area in the Yukon. The case went cold until 2019, when the Canadian government sent DNA evidence to an international database. In September of 2021, the remains were confirmed to belong to Ted. He had passed away in July of 1981, been discovered in '83, and wasn't identified until decades later in 2021. The strange and creepy mystery of what happened to Ted was only partially solved. However, the true identity of the man impersonating Ted remains an unsolved mystery, and the extent of his involvement in Ted's demise is an untold story. Anyone with information about this case can contact the Yukon RCMP History Case Tip Line at 867-667-550. Number 1. Today more than ever, the internet allows investigators to instantly connect case information. Unfortunately, more information is not always a good thing. Sometimes we end up with more questions than answers. Such is the case in the scary but true story of Nelda Louise Hardwick, a devoted mother of 4 whose family has been forced to mourn her loss twice over. Not much information is available online about Nelda's disappearance. She lived in Lake Charles, Louisiana with her boyfriend and 4 children. On the evening of October 14, 1993, she bathed her children and put them to bed. Her boyfriend went to bed as well. When he woke up, Nelda was gone. He found a note saying she was going to the store and she'd be right back. Nelda's boyfriend reported her missing later that day. Crime scene investigators believed foul play was involved. However, the case went cold. 4.5 years later, a woman failed to safely cross Interstate 10 in Hancock County, Mississippi, and was flung 230 feet from the roadway. The woman, who did not survive, was not carrying any identification, but investigators noted she was in her late 30s with brown hair dyed slightly red. Like Nelda, this person was missing all of her teeth. The mystery woman was entered into the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System as a Jane Doe. Nelda's relatives continued to search for her until sometime in 2013, when they came across database photos that had been taken of Jane Doe. The coroner in Jane Doe's case was quoted as saying that the resemblance was so strong that there was just a 1 chance in 1,000 that the woman wasn't Nelda, and that she may have been held captive for years and somehow escaped. A judge ordered the exhumation of Jane Doe's grave to collect DNA evidence for forensic testing. Nelda's family was soon met with another horrifying shock. Rather than the answers they were seeking, the plot at St. Joseph Cemetery only contained more mysteries. The body under Jane Doe's headstone was that of a 6'2" man with a full set of teeth. His identity is unknown, and so is the actual location of Jane Doe's body. Investigators have not released any information as to the identity of these remains, nor have they shared any updates on the whereabouts of Jane Doe. With no more leads to go on, the mysterious disappearance of Nelda Louise Hardwick has gone cold once again. Anyone with information about her unsolved case can contact the local sheriff's office at 800-259-3737, quoting agency case number 93054-275. Similarly, anyone who has information about Jane Doe can contact Jim Falk at the Hancock County Coroner's Office at 228-467-9031. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked this video, be sure to hit that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.